So Jordan joined CPA in June of 2020, and 6 months later, he was doing $25,000 a month. And we're gonna get into a very, very insightful conversation about his journey, how he started, how initially he was basically managing or balancing a job that was taking 10, 12 hours out of his day while still trying to grow his agency, how he ended up quitting from that job, and really that decision to go all in, along with the help of copy-paste agencies, how he ended up in the position that he is today. So, as I said, you guys are in for a very, very insightful conversation. Now, before we get the ball rolling with this, if you guys want to see a little bit more about copy-paste agency, about the way that we operate, about exactly what's inside the program, what you get, and you want to see the entire case study, updated 2021 case study, go ahead, click the link down below. As I said, it'll take you to the page. There's no opt-in. You don't have to give your email, anything like that. It's just a page that, as I said, goes over the philosophies and really the pillars that allow our students in CPA to get these sort of results. The guarantee, the money back guarantee that we have with CPA, as well as all of the students that have learned from us here at GrowYourAgency, and just some of the results that we've gotten our students. So go ahead and check that link. It should be in the description. And with no further ado, let's get straight into it. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another student interview. We are joined today with Jordan, who just had an incredible 2020. Financially, in the business, personally. I'm sure you're pretty happy you don't have to clock into work every day anymore. Give him a rundown. How did your agency journey start?
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me on, Iman. Really appreciate it. It kind of starts probably back in 2019, towards the end of 2019. Funny enough, it's crazy how the internet works. I was, so before my actual profession is welding. So, literal 12-hour days, hot as hell, working with hot metal, grinding shit. It was just, quite a different experience from what I'm at now. But I was also always sort of into, e-commerce and looking at drop shipping and stuff like that. And funny enough, someone that I subscribed to on YouTube that I followed on Instagram one day posted going to watch shopping with you, actually. And I was like, oh, who is this guy? So I clicked on your Instagram and I was like, wow, this dude's so young. What the hell? What is he doing? And I just went down the rabbit hole of your YouTube channel and stuff like that. Found actually 6-figure SMMA. And it was funny enough because right when I joined, that was literally the week of Agency Incubator being launched. So it was kind of okay, what course should I even so I started halfway through 6-figure SMMA, and I was like, okay, this is obviously just the next tier up, right? So just went into Agency Incubator, and honestly, not to be too cliche, but it pretty much changed my life, in terms of honestly, the biggest one for me was the mind, week 2, probably mindset and everything. It was just kind of a whole the paradigm shift. I think that's one of the modules. And yeah, from there, just really dived and sort of delved a little bit more into the course. Obviously, started learning to understand marketing as a whole. And the course was I can't even give you props enough on building that thing, because it's literally I've spoken to so many people before when they're because they've seen me in your stories or whatever, they ask oh, how is the course? Would you recommend it? It's literally A to Z. It's unbelievable. I can't even, I can't preach that course enough. So it basically taught me everything to start the agency. And literally February 14th, so not even a year ago, I signed my very first client, I think a week into doing outreach, which was awesome. And obviously sort of lucky, right? It was one of those ones.
One thing that's quite interesting there, and sorry to interrupt you.
No worries, bro.
So that means you must have got into Agency Incubator around the end of October. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you only started doing outreach beginning of Feb.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It might have even been maybe the end of January, but yeah, there was that whole phase of just sort of understanding the realm of what I was getting to. Because I said, also the part of it was I was working full time. So the only time that I was working on the course was 8 to 10 p.m. every day. Like literally it was only 2 hours a day. So like my time frame of like the ability to consume the course, but then implement things was like so staggered because I only had this limited time. Like the weekends, there was like when I would like work long days, but like a lot of it, like I said, it just took so much time because I was working full time doing it. But obviously I just kept doing it.
That's amazing. So yeah, you signed your first client beginning of February, and yeah, as I said, sorry.
Yeah. So like February 14th, it was like kind of one of those ones where when I first started in, like as everyone else, right, you're kind of figuring out what niche, you know, you want to service. And I don't even really remember how I stumbled on medical spas, but like my girlfriend at the time was like doing esthetician services and stuff like that. And like, I've just figured like, oh, like, you know, it's just an easy service to sell for people who are already looking for it. Right. So it'd be easy to run ads for these places. And simple enough, like, man, like, again, like I can't even preach the course enough. Like I literally used the exact script, walked them through lifetime value of the customer. And it was like an, oh yeah, moment for them. Like, aha. And I was like, they signed on the spot, paid up front in full. And like, I was like, oh my God, like this is insane. So, like that was so dope. But then like literally like 3 weeks into that, COVID hit. And then so their place actually shut down. Like we tried a bunch of different things to like keep people engaged, but obviously like at that point they never really opened back up like they did, you know, several months later. But at that point I ended up losing that client.
For sure. So, you know, as soon as you hit this monumental achievement, sign your first client, 3 weeks later, you know, you end up losing them, or they pause or this or that, you know, with everything that's going on in the world. First of all, what did that do to you mentally, and how did you bounce back from that?
Of course, it was like a setback. Like it was very like, oh wow, like of course, like I'm just starting this new venture and like it's actually going well. And then like this like literally 1 in a million thing happened. Like it was just like, you have to be kidding. But at the same time, it was also like, okay, like this works obviously. Like I wasn't even doing this for that long. And again, I was doing it so part-time in terms of like my attention was at work obviously most of the time. So like even though I was at work like prospecting on my phone during lunch breaks and stuff like that, like you know, at the same time I just like kind of understood like after that I was like, okay, like obviously this works. And you know, I kind of figured out like I like sales and like I like this route. And I always sort of knew in the back of my mind like, man, like I hate welding. Like the people that I worked with, like it's just like just a different personality of people, right? Like they're just more rougher around the edges and just things like that. Where just like, you know, after doing it for a few years, like it paid well, right? Like I was getting a decent amount of money, nowhere to what I'm making now, but it's like, you know, it was like a comfortability thing, right? And then I was just so uncomfortable with the people that I was with that it didn't really matter. And so like, funny enough, when I quit my job, I didn't even have a client. I just, I quit because like I knew, like I just knew the power of what we were doing, like in terms of social media marketing and running an agency. Like I was so confident that like once I put the time in and like if I just quit and like had the time to do this every day, that it would work out. And it literally like as crazy as it is, like obviously I was planning things. I didn't just quit like up in one day. Like I kind of figured like, you know, okay, maybe a month out. Like I gave my 2-week notice, and I was obviously prospecting every day. And the literal day that I quit my job and the first day that I was working full-time on the agency was the first day that I signed my first e-commerce client, which was like insane. It was just really lucky, I guess.
So you just give people a more accurate depiction of timeline. So February, early or mid-Feb, you sign that client. 3 weeks later, you lose them. Did you sign any other med spa clients, or did you?
No.
So it's straight from there into. At what point did you quit your job?
July 20th. So like up to that point, it was just kind of like I still wanted to service medical spas, but like in this whole time I was like, okay, like, you know, and I thought like everyone sort of felt the same at that time. It's like, okay, it's going to be over in 2 weeks or like whatever. Right. Like I was just sort of expecting it to like eventually be over and I could go back to serving medical spas. And then like, I was just like, you know, the more and more I thought about it, I was like, you know, it's obviously daunting to like switch niches and like kind of like learn that whole structure of like even the whole business side of it. But like, I was just like I might as well, right? Like there's no, you know, like I just didn't really have a fear of like taking that next step and like learning the other side of, I guess like a business, right? Because like one thing I would definitely recommend is like, you have to understand their business, so the people that you're serving, at least, like that was super important to me. It was like, I didn't want to go into this and be like caught off guard by questions that I had no idea like what they were even talking about. So like that was a big sticking point for me. But like I said, like, yeah, from February, signing that client, losing them, didn't sign a single client. And like I said, I quit without a client, but I just like knew that like once I had the time to do this full time and literally spend 8-10 hours a day doing this, it was only a matter of time until I got one extra client and another client, another client. And that's exactly how it happened.
For sure. So remind me when you joined Copy Paste Agency.
It must have been like right before, I can't remember the actual date, but like I was still working. And like, even then, like I just knew, like I was just so, I knew how good Agency Incubator was. So like, I just knew Copy Paste Agency would just be like the next tier, obviously, like, and it is. So like I joined, it had to have been right before July, maybe a month before. And then like, even then, like joining that next level, like that next program was just giving me that more confidence in terms of like I was so confident in quitting. Like I literally didn't care. I didn't have it. Like I literally had zero revenue coming in when I quit. So.
For sure. So, cause here's the thing. I remember, once again, just to kind of fill in the timeline a little bit more right now, what are you pulling in with the agency?
Just over 25 grand a month. Canadian.
So it's been basically around just over 6 months for you to go from basically zero, from signing that first client, to 25 grand a month. And is that revenue or profit?
That's revenue. But so, yeah, so total, like literally from that February 14th, from that very first client, like I'm sitting at just over 120K revenue for, from that time. So almost a full year. It's been, building a 6-figure agency, which is amazing.
That's awesome. And as I said, this year you're on a run rate to, you're doing around 25 grand a month. So you're on a run rate to hit, a couple $100,000. And I mean, the pace that you're going, what advice can you give to people? Because as I said, people, I think that's people's ultimate goal. Hey, sign my first client. Well, I guess technically it wasn't your first client, but the first client in the new niche that you serve. And then within 6 months, you ramped up to 25 grand a month. So how'd you have that explosive growth?
I think the number one thing for me is always doing the boring work, because that's what works. And like, even though like you really have to take in understanding what's taught in the course, and you can't, just copy and paste what you've given us, right? Because at this point, there's so many people in the course, and these people have been reached out to, X and many people that have already done other courses, right? So you have to innovate on your own, but at the same time, like understanding that it's a mixture of quantity over quality, but it's a mixture of both, right? Like in terms of like, it felt like for a long time I was bashing my head against the wall, but I knew like the tweaks that I was making as I was doing it in terms of outreach and using different scripts and using different platforms, and you have to adjust as you were going. But it was, like I said, like the boring work, like sending, 50 emails a day, every day, right? But then following up with everyone as well, right? So like it turns out to be like 150 emails a day, because you're sending, the third follow-up, fourth, like, and then you learn farther on down the line, like, okay, you can automate certain things, right? So I think for me, it was more so just about doing what needed to be done every single day, and setting those daily KPIs of saying like, okay, this needs to be done every day, no matter what. And eventually, like, that's going to help me reach my goal in terms of like, if you're using email outreach, like set a certain amount of goals to, hit that every single day, no matter what, as a hygiene standard. And I think once you start breaking things down incrementally into like daily goals, it starts to get a lot easier. And then, as time goes on, like you really just start to see that effect of, things building up in momentum. And like I said, like for certain examples, like of signing clients, like there were times where I reached out to them like 2 or 3 months prior and nothing, like I was kind of had a slow month or two. And then like, and all of a sudden 1 month, people that I reached out to, 3 or 4 months before were coming back, and I signed into like 4 clients in a month. Right. So like, it's really just about slowly doing things, but always definitely believing in the process. I think that's what got me to this point, is not really pivoting and having shiny object syndrome and, wanting to do 100 other things. It's just kind of knowing what works, slowly tweaking, but then always, making sure you're doing it every single day.
For sure. So one thing, and I guess this is why I love, what I love about copy paste agency is just, as you said, agency incubator, like, incredible program. I mean, for the price, it's obnoxious. But, I don't have, with CPA, I know everyone in there, and we speak, and we have so much FaceTime together, and there's the Zoom, and like I said, like I spend so much, we probably, between the last 7 months that you've been in the program, we've probably spent a couple hours actually speaking,
For sure.
cumulatively, mispronounced that word, whatever. So obviously I know your story a little bit more intimately. One thing that really sticks out to me about you, just because obviously I even just see you in, the WhatsApp group, like that thing is a hoot and a half. This is your life. Like, that's one thing that really sticks out to me is you're definitely one of the, you're definitely quite a big character in the group. There's some people who, are, some people even say it, they pop in every once in a while and they're like, hey, just sign this new, I remember there was one like a couple of days ago. He's like, yeah, 10K retainer, most of the time I just read, I just stay in the back. I forget his name, but yeah, you're very, I mean, you communicate and you engage with the rest of the community so much, and that becomes like almost like your social circle, and it becomes almost like I said, like it seems like in the past 6 months this has become your entire life. And I don't know if it's a wrong assumption, or maybe it really had very little to do with your success, but what part do you think that played in where you are today?
I think that's just it's just a crazy understated part in terms of propelling the success that happens so fast, because a lot of it is like, I can't even think of the words to say, but just learning from other people's mistakes, that you don't have to take those routes, right? Like, and also like having the WhatsApp group is like literally ridiculous. Like the value, I can't even, like, it's probably worth 10x what CPA is alone, like just the group itself, because everyone in there is so high quality, and it's literally having like 100 agency owners that are doing 6 figures plus in your pocket. So like any question you have, it's, and it's, everyone's so active, and like any question I have is just answered immediately. Right. So whether there's been times of like, what should we do with this specific client, or even just general, just speaking and having that community, like you said, and building like friendship with people that, have the same goals as you, and working in the same space is like something I think that's pretty rare, to be honest, because I don't know about, anyone watching this video, but I don't really have any agency friends in real life that are running an agency, right? So having that ability to communicate with people that are in the same, the trenches every single day, and dealing with the same issues and putting out the same fires, like it's so valuable. It doesn't, like, I can't even explain it.
Yeah. So, really what I'm trying to get at there is, especially in that first year, like your life needs to become your agency. Your life, when you're not working, that should be what you're thinking about. Your YouTube subscription box should be basically only things that can help your agency. Probably most hobbies should probably fall to the wayside. You should just become so, and as I said, that's just one thing that stood out about you, is just like, I could tell, as I said, between the calls, between the interaction in the group, between like, obviously, from afar, and, from afar, I know what's going on with the community. Obviously, Kieran is very, very active, the product manager for GrowYourAgency. And as I said, we kind of know everyone's stories quite intimately. That's just one thing that's always stood out. It's just like, it seemed like from the moment that you quit, your agency just became your life. And that was, as I said, just one thing that really stood out.
Yeah, like I think, a lot of the people that may even be thinking about taking the course, or even may have already been in the course, is like a lot of the difference from the people that I think succeed and end up don't succeeding is just sort of that halfway in mentality, is whether you don't even necessarily believe the success that you can achieve, or like you don't even believe the process in itself. But like I said in the beginning, like as crazy as it is, like the biggest part for me in Agency Incubator was like the mindset week. Like that, I think, was the basis for all of it, because like you said, like just having that mentality of being focused, right, and only focusing on things that are, propelling me towards the goal that I want. I think like just the minor changes, and like even the simple tips that you gave for like Facebook feed eradicator, like things like that, is like I think like has just helped me so much so far in terms of like being focused. But one other thing that I think really helped me before was like also having that the background that I have in terms of working like that 9 to 5 before, because I think, you know, obviously we all want to get to the point of running that agency where it's, you know, 4 hours a week and, you know, it's really out of our hands and it's automated and it's nice and we're just getting money on the side. But until you're there making, you know, a couple $1 million a year, I think like you really have to be engulfed in it. Like you have to grind and like it has to be your life, because otherwise, you know, the people who are going to do that are going to beat you and take your clients. So it's, you know, it's just it's the decision whether you want to go all in and make those sacrifices in terms of like playing Xbox and things like that. Right. I think those are decisions you have to make yourself. But in the long run, you know, if you don't make those sacrifices, then whatever your dreams are will become the sacrifice.
For sure. So one thing that I want to touch on, and once again, I also love, you know, this is why I love like CPA, like just the high level conversations that we have, you know, in that program. And at the end of the day, it is true. You know, I was, you know, with Agency Incubator, really the goal is to get you to 10K a month. And when you're in from that 0 to 10K a month, at the end of the day, really the only thing that matters is outreach, signing clients. The way the conversation shifts once we, you know, people are in CPA, and as I said, I'm just CPA, not CPA program, not like don't fixate on the program. The point is like the phase of your agency you're in, and your revenue mark and kind of how long you've been in it and this and that. Most of the stuff that, you know, we focus on once we get to the phase that we're at, or as I said, in CPA, is like longevity, client delight, company culture. Like it starts to become less about, you know, how do we just sign more and more clients, to like, how do we get these clients to stay on for as long as possible and just provide a level that no one could even come, a level of service no one could even come close to. And ironically, that's how you actually end up getting more clients. I know, you know, just because I recall certain conversations that we've had, you know, on the Q&A calls, I know you take great pride in your agency's service delivery, and basically just your client care. Is there anything you're doing specifically, or any way you look at client delight, sparking client delight, and just, you know, really just having your clients stay on for as long as possible?
Yeah, so I think like that's one thing. Like a lot of people definitely like there's definitely different focuses, right? Like you said, like if you're under that, you know, 10K mark, you definitely more want to be focusing primarily on obviously acquiring clients, right? There's no point in focusing on longevity when you only have one client. So once you reach that point, like I think it obviously is so important, but it's also one of those things where, in my opinion, you know, it's obviously so important, and that's what's taken me a long way. Like, for example, for our agency, like literally, we've only lost one client since doing this, and it was only because they took it in-house, and we were doing them, you know, over 6 figures return on ad spend a month, right? So I don't really think it was necessarily them leaving out of an issue with us. But I think a lot of the times it's still focusing on those things, like the things that got you there, right? Because you can realize so quickly that like you can lose clients. Like I'm sure you've had it happen before, where you lose a client or two in a month, right? And it can be a large client, which can be like half of your revenue. But I think like focusing on those things that got you there in the first place are so key. But then obviously those things on the back end just come in terms of, once you grow as an agency owner, you'll want to grow as a service provider and want to actually, you know, provide literally the A1 service that you can. But I think like always focusing on what got you there is going to keep you in the game for the long term, I think.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. That's honestly, that's the biggest thing in any business, any industry, is just like the scariest time is, quite frankly, when you're succeeding and everything's going well, and you know, you're like, and you take that for granted. You assume that's always going to be like that, and then you stop doing the things that got you there in the first place. It's, you know, that's basically the fall of any, you know, anyone who gets a success in their life. So the last thing that I want to talk about here is looking forward to the next year, 5 years, 10 years for you personally in your life. Is your agency something that you see yourself doing in 10 years, or is it what, you know, quite frankly, for some people in the program, and I think that's awesome as well, for them, it's just a stepping stone. For some people, you know, for some people in the program, I know they're just trying to get to 1 million in investments, and, you know, their agency is clocking them in, you know, 300K a year profit, 500K a year profit. they're in this game for 5 years and then that's it. They're done and they're chilling. For some people, it's a cash cow. So that way they can invest in real estate, which I guess is kind of part of that same strategy, or real estate or stocks or cryptocurrency or whatever. Or do you see yourself, and I guess if you do see yourself, in 10, 15, 20 years running your agency, what does that look like? Does that look like an office to you? Does that look like 100 employees, 10 employees, et cetera, et cetera?
Sure, for sure. To be honest, like I said before, so whenever I was doing welding and everything, like it was just kind of one of those things that I don't even really know how that fell into my lap either. It was just one of those things that, my parents always said, do a trade, right? It's like safe route, make money. And it did make money, right? But it was always something that I didn't really enjoy. And I think that's such an understated thing. Like I truly enjoy the day-to-day grind of what I'm doing in terms of like building the agency and building a team and dealing with clients. Like I truly enjoy just the entire atmosphere and this whole lifestyle of it. So for me personally, like I don't see, like I would love to to continue till I'm 80 years old and I can just do this as long as possible. But in that same note, I'm also not one of those people that, I don't want to have 10, 20 employees in an office and things like that, right? Like I think for me, it's also a lifestyle business in the sense of like, I want to have the choice to do what I want to do whenever I want to do it, but I also want to be hands-on at all times. And I think like I don't really want to be building that team. Like maybe that opinion will change in a couple of years once I've been doing this for a little bit of a longer time. But as of right now, like I truly love the game and what I'm doing, and like I truly can't understate enough like how thankful I am for you in general creating this course and just the knowledge that you've passed on throughout literally everyone else that's been watching your YouTube videos or has joined the course, because it goes so far beyond just myself, right? Like just employing people that I'm employing now and just being able to support my family in certain ways that I wasn't before. Like it's insane. It's literally insane.
I appreciate it. Well, on that note, jog my memory, you do have a full-time team member, right?
Yeah. So like I brought on, like I have a full-time media buyer and it's literally just myself and my girlfriend, and that's it.
What? So yourself, your girlfriend, and the media buyer?
Yeah. And that's it. So she just helps me part-time, and again, it's just one of those things where I think just the ability to do things the way that I want to when I want to is just like perfect, right? And I also want someone that understands what I want in terms of like a long-term vision, and bringing her in, just like having her help with things that she's already good with in terms of her background, like copywriting, accounting, and things like that. I think it's just a perfect match, and it just worked out perfectly, to be honest.
So one thing that I want to, because for me, I find what was it like in terms of a fulfillment perspective and like just a kind of pride perspective of bringing someone full-time? Because I think that is going from 10K a month to, kind of usually it's, once you hit like 18, 20K, then it kind of makes sense to bring someone on full-time. Like to me, that's just the coolest thing ever. Like, cause it's funny. It seems weird, but even just a company of two people, you can still, that's when you start to form company culture. When someone is there full time, when your media buyer is full time with you and they're thinking about client campaigns in the shower, they're thinking like they want to grow the business. They want you to bring in more on more retainers. And it's just so fulfilling to have that like partnership. Even in my agency, like it's me plus three, it's me, Danny, Luis, half of Kieran's time. It depends how much, how stressed Danny is making Kieran with new client coffee. We're about to bring on another, but still it's considering the agency's revenue, it's such a small company, but it's just, I don't know, like it's, once you bring on someone full-time, I just find the whole thing so much more fulfilling.
Yeah. Like in terms of like, just even becoming, like making it real for myself. Like, I think that was one of the steps also where I was like, wow, like this is, a real business at this point. And the other one the other day was, I was getting like the actual, the business papers for incorporating my business and just things like that. Right. I think taking those next steps made it so fulfilling to be like, wow, like I've come so far in just such a little amount of time that like, the next 6 months, next year are going to be insane. I just can't wait.
That's awesome. Well, dude, I want to thank you for your time. Yeah, honestly, incredible story. Basically to go from 0 to 25K in 6 months. And yeah, do what you've done. As I said, you're just like such a positive light in the CPA community. So I just want to, thank you for that.
I appreciate it, man. And again, like, I can't thank you enough. Seriously. Like, I think already at this point how many people's lives you've changed, but seriously, man, it's crazy, right? From where I was literally a year ago, right? Like literally welding and drilling holes in metal every single day. Like, it's quite a different lifestyle, man. You've literally changed my life. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much.